Hello, everyone. This is December 5th, 2022, and this is application performance team meeting. So let me share my screen. And yes, do we have anything that needs to be addressed immediately, or we start with the board? Yeah, seems like no one else outside of our team on the meeting, so let's start with the board. And starting closed issues, it's you, Nicola. Fine-tune sidekick memory killer.
Yeah, so last week we enabled hard limit for both shard and what both shards, like the catch-all shard, and I also enabled for the urgent CPU bound shard. And like we followed the metrics, and it seems that we reduced the number of OM kills by doing that. So I don't plan to do any fine-tunings in the near future. I think that we achieved what we wanted, that we reduced the OM kills. Maybe there is a room to additionally fine-tune the soft limits as well, but if it's needed, I will open another different issue. But I think that now we are in the good place. We just need to now move the sidekick memory killer to watchdog and use these fine-tuned values, and that's it.
Great, thank you. The next one is also from you.
Yeah, this is just a prerequisite where I introduce a new event reporter, so we can introduce the specific reporter for Sidekick, because for Sidekick we also want to log and have additional metrics for currently running jobs. So when we exceed the limit and we decide to restart the Sidekick process, we want to log currently running jobs, and we want to log them, and we want to increase the metrics. So I needed separate reporter so I can introduce the additional ones for Sidekick, and maybe in the future we will need the same thing for Puma as well. So it's just an iteration process to extract additional components.
Great, thank you. And the next one from you, Matthias.
Yeah, that was in response to a massive broken incident that we had. Just to summarize quickly, but what happened was that we sent a merge request to the build images repository where we bumped the Ruby version in several places, and we have a build step that applies patches to these Rubies. And some of these are necessary for the application to function correctly. It's actually one we own, the memory instrumentation. And because there was no build verification in CI that this should happen, it passed the build. So we merged that and we deployed that. So then all of CI basically broke because it would then fail for every MR and on master in CI. So we did two things in response to that. First of all, the way it failed in CI wasn't particularly useful, because there was a check in our instrumentation spec helper that we actually make sure that this functionality is patched into Ruby. But for some reason, when run in CI, there was a step where we proceeded to run the test anyway. So obviously that would fail the test, but it didn't really give you the reason why it was failing. It was just basically complaining that this isn't working. So the first MR was to just make that clearer, and now we just fail fast if that should happen again, to just raise an exception, basically saying this should never happen with a clear error message. But that's still patching a symptom. So what I suggested as well was to actually go into the GitLab build images repository and patch the build pipeline there to actually include a verification step, so that we make sure that all of these patches that we consider mandatory for the application to run are verified that they are applied. So we have a small script in there now, and we keep this kind of allow list of patches or patch names. And it verifies that for all Ruby versions we patch them in. And I did the same change for CNG just in case. Yeah, so that's done.
Thanks for fixing it. It's great. And the next one is from me. This was a P2 S2 issue sitting at our board for quite some long time. We picked it up this milestone because we asked to, and we found that it's it was a Redis 5 issue. Actually, Sean helped me to discover that. So I'm still considering potential follow-up if we need to run maybe, I don't know, like the same Redis on local environment, same as CI, because it was very confusing that you could not reproduce it. But yeah, I didn't prepare follow-up yet. But this one is fixed. Yeah, that's it for done. Let me remove this label. Forgot it. Yep. And workflow verification. So this one is also from me. So I was also asked by engineering productivity team to clean up our feature flags, and thanks Matthias for merging the main MR, which renames all the feature flags from memory to application performance and adjusts the feature ownership for the image scaler. But I also need a follow-up from Nicola. So about these 3 feature flags. So as far as I understand, Nicola mentioned that we could remove them. Nicola, do you have some comment? Anything?
I don't. I still didn't prepare an MR. I will just prepare an MR that will remove these feature flags because we are not using them. And
okay.
Maybe I will create an issue where we can discuss should we remove the whole measuring component because it's not used, or we want to keep it, or we want to improve it. Because currently, in order to like the measurable component is just measuring like the memory and execution time of the services, and it needed to be included in the service and explicitly and behind the feature flag. So maybe we can improve it to be included in the base service behind the environment variable for the production, because we don't want to slow down and check for each service if the feature flag is there and enabled. But I don't know, that's separate issue. So I can remove the currently implemented feature flags because they're no longer used. We use them to analyze import export issue and forgot about them. They're probably disabled on production, but just need to be removed completely from the system. And we can discuss about like what is the future of measurable.
Okay,
module.
Then I added you to the assignee. If you're busy, I could remove them as well. So
no worry, no
okay.
worry. I'll do
that. So we are moving to the blocked issue. So GitLab metric exporter, same as before.
Same as before. From my side, I still didn't check why the logs are missing, but yeah.
Okay.
We will do, and for the rest, I don't have any updates.
For the rest, I will have some update.
Yeah, go ahead. I also don't have anything.
Yeah, and Ruby 3 exploration testing also we are sitting at the same position, right? We are waiting for
these are all on
GDK. Yeah,
I don't think also especially the cloud profiling thing. I don't know how long that will be sit and blocked. I think maybe is this I don't know what we do with these issues where it's completely unclear when anyone will work on this, because they will keep showing up. I don't think it's necessary to talk about it every week, basically.
Okay.
Maybe it's because it's active. Maybe just remove the active label because it's really not active. Yeah. Thanks.
And this one, Roy, do you have any update?
No update. I have to wait for the next milestone before I can close this.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. And in dev, first one is from you, Matthias.
Yeah. So this is done up to MR5, which is in maintainer review. If you go back to the top, could you go back to the top? Yeah, so MR5 is in maintainer review. I'm just waiting for that to get merged. So this is basically a prerequisite to pulling heap dumps so that we can compress data before we write it to disk, because they can get very large. But I labeled this as blocked because we can't really, because going beyond that and actually writing heap dumps, we're running into this problem where Prometheus client mmap writes corrupt string data into memory, so that when you walk the object space, it will crash MRI. This turned out to not be a bug in MRI, but it turned out to be a bug in our library. And that library is really not maintained. It's kind of in maintenance mode. It's basically, yeah, it's managed, like Stan is maintaining this on a best effort basis. So he helps out whenever something comes up, but we're looking into how to do that. I'm not super helpful here, to be honest. I'm just trying to wrap my head around like why this is even happening. So we kind of know why it's happening. So we know what the root cause is. We have executable test cases to reproduce this. That's not the problem, but we still weren't able to fully make the problem go away. And the code is pretty messy, honestly, in that library. Yeah, it does all kinds of like things it shouldn't be doing, probably. Yeah, anyway. So I can't say at this point. I'm just not comfortable with shipping this feature with us having test cases that really reliably reproduce these crashes. I mean, I will say that this has not happened in production yet, because it only crashes in certain scenarios, like when you look at certain data in memory, and apparently this has so far only happened when we try to pull heap dumps, which isn't something we typically do in production. But still, this sounds concerning, and it points to a general problem in the implementation, the memory management implementation of this library. So I think we should probably fix it regardless of what we're doing here.
Yeah, thanks for starting investigation, and I've seen the bug on Ruby. It's really great. So we found the reason. And the next one is from me, and don't really have a strong update on it. So just to give some context, we found that GME was ballooning on memory when we tested it. But the problem is we are not able to actually reproduce the data sample on which it balloons in memory. And we discussed it with Matthias on Friday office hours, and we decided that we will compare side by side GME and Ruby exporter memory usage, because we don't really want to, make it optimal. We just want to be sure that it doesn't act worse than previous implementation, current implementation written in Ruby. And in fact, I did some analysis. I constructed 3 various data sets. And unfortunately, or fortunately for us, GME is reliably better in every possible case I tested so far. So it's much more stable on memory because it pre-allocates a stable amount of memory and keeps it like this, unlike in Ruby, where it's... And I didn't find a case yet where GME is worse on memory or where it spikes on memory. So I'm still figuring out what could be the next step here. So maybe if you have some ideas, Matthias, feel free to drop a line in the issue. Because I also tried to rewrite it. I tried to rewrite the way how we parse file, but I found this problematic because we need to keep a map of all the samples we parse, which also kind of bottleneck. So it needs much bigger rewrite actually to avoid accumulating samples in memory. So I decided not to do it and go with the comparison first. So yeah, this is still in progress. I will try to see what we could do, or maybe we should just say that GME acts better, or maybe we should try to pull this sample, pull this kind of data on which GME balloons in memory. So yeah, I will think on it.
Maybe one thing we can do, because I only did that, I only looked at data from that was older. Maybe we can look at production and see if we find any memory spikes in the Ruby exporters that are kind of resembling this. Because yeah, I also think at this point, the reason we're looking at this is twofold, right? I mean, one, because it is clearly a problem, but also we need to keep in mind that the main reason we're even working on this is to get the system production ready. And I think the criteria here should be doesn't make things worse, right? If it's at least as good, I think we should just complete this epic and ship it, right? As long as we don't make matters worse. So that doesn't mean they're gonna have to be dramatically better. So I think that should be our. I know that's a little disappointing, but if we make this our measuring stick, then at least we can get this done, right?
That's true.
So maybe what I would, if you can't reproduce this locally, which sounds like that's the case, right? Maybe we can, because we've seen it happen on staging, right, pretty frequently. But the Ruby exporters are still running in prod, right? So maybe we can look at Thanos again and see, because frankly, like I don't even think we have alerts in place for that system. So maybe we can see if that happens to the Ruby exporter as well, and if it exhibits the same like if it's degenerates in the same way, then and if it hasn't caused problems in production, then at least we can mention that during the rollout and say, you know, hey, look, this is expected to happen, and we, you know what I mean, we can kind of separate these two problems from what makes GME production ready, so that we can finish this rollout and this apping and move on onto something else from this like general problem, because like you said earlier, to some extent this isn't fixable because it's in the design of a multi-process metrics exporter, right? We have all of these files and we need to merge them in memory. It's a MapReduce problem, right? So we cannot you can't do it.
You of course could dump it on disk, but it will be so slow. I mean, if you put a
maybe there's like completely different approaches to this, which would mean we would have to write a new system from scratch. I don't know if that's probably not
but phase 2 should solve it in the end. So if we move to the phase 2.
Well, it wouldn't solve the problem, but it would make the blast radius much smaller, right? Because it wouldn't compete with memory with Ruby workers, which it currently does because it runs in the same C group. If it would run in its own container, which I agree it should, and everyone has been saying that like ever since we worked on this system, but that was the easiest path, was just to make it a drop-in replacement, right? Just to replace the binary, basically. So the next step is containerization, and then at least we can, you know, let kind of Kubernetes figure out how to enforce resource limits and all of that.
I think that's reasonable. So to sum up, I will just check Thanos for Ruby exporter spikes, try to compare them with what we've seen with GME. If they're similar, and I still can't find the reliable example on which I could reproduce the issue on the local environment, we just say GME is just not worse than Ruby exporter, and in fact, better from what I've seen on my examples. So yeah, and we just move on and separate maybe this issue into a separate one to improve GME if we need. Yes, so that's it from the in-dev. And anything else? Anything I need to refresh? No. Okay, so then let's move to the document, and this is next is from UCD.
This is a follow-up issue with a discussion that raised in the monthly product performance indicator meeting. I think Josh had a question about what could be some new indicator for our team.
Okay, so
it's just like maybe I'm not sure like whether we can have a conclusion in this meeting. Maybe it's just people can think about it. If anyone have any thoughts, Josh with this.
I have one thought. I feel like this is putting the cart before the horse, because we can't reasonably find a proper performance indicator if we there doesn't even seem to be agreement on what our team should be doing. I had a discussion with Roger. It's basically his next point. So it's a nice segue. Like all of these projects that we're working on and we know we will work on, and the rate limiting framework is just another example of this. This has nothing to do with performance, application performance, right? So I think we're at a point now where I feel like this vision to pivot to application performance has not worked, and it doesn't look like it will work in the next year either, at least not in the first quarter or two. So like I don't think it makes sense to talk about PIs for the app perf team if we can't even execute on that vision, right? And the investment case is still open as well. So there's so many question marks right now. as to like what we even should do or what we are as a team that we need to work through with Roger and Josh, Fabian, and everyone on this team. I think we should do that first. And then I think we should decide if this team stays the application performance team or if we should pivot again into to better reflect the work that we are doing and will be doing. Those are my thoughts.
Do we have any discussion planned about this? Do you know? Like, or do you think it will naturally happen with Roger?
Well, Roger opened an issue. I don't know if he copied everyone in it, but clarifying it's a team task. Let me link it in the excuse me.
Yeah. Yes, I see it. Clarifying it's in Roger's message here.
Yeah. This came from various angles. This also came from the MRA opened that proposed the platform team to take on some of these concerns that partially we are working on, partially others are working on, partially no one is working on or owning them. And one of the suggestions was that maybe we should be that team. So I think this is a discussion we need to have because it sounds like it's not clear if that could be a full like new team at this point.
First, I agree with what Matthias mentioned about the indicator. I think that was a very good argument. And second, for this Roger's issue, before we have a single discussion, maybe we can throw our ideas on that issue asynchronously first.
Yes, I think it's
I'm sure like
okay.
the asynchronous discussion for this one probably won't be enough. But we can definitely like share our opinion first. Then we can sit on together and have more discussion.
Sounds good. Yeah. And the next is what we discussed, Roger's issue. Please check it and please reply if you have any thoughts. And the next is from you, City.
Yes, this is just a reminder. If we have any release post item for 15.8, sorry, I think it should be 15.7. Yeah, my bad.
Nikolai, do we need to mention? Did we want to mention this whole memory watchdog replacement, or is it something we should announce, or is it more of like a quiet, silent rollout?
Well, I'm not sure because for the self-managed customers, nothing changed.
True.
Really.
Not yet. Yeah. No, I mean, if there's no visible change, then probably no.
I know, maybe from engineering perspective, is worth mentioning that we cleaned the code and have watchdog, but
no, I would
as a release post item, no.
Yeah, because that's read like by end users, admins, right?
Okay.
Next one is from you, Roy.
Yeah, just a small Ruby 3 update. The audit is 100% review done. There's still quite a bit of action required though.
Cool.
That's great.
Yeah, there's 44 gems which have action required. It's pretty up to date. I checked it about a week ago. Might be some changes now, but should be around 40 gems still left to do. I got a ping from someone asking if we had a due date for updating the gem, which is one of the action required.
Yes, I think we do. Like, I think we should, because there's an engineering OKR for this entire epic. So the due date should be end of January.
Okay.
I thought we had that. Could you go to the epic? I thought I had actually updated the, we set it very late on the epic. I thought didn't I do that? Oh, it's still inherited. I'm so sorry. I thought I had done that.
Yeah.
No, it is fixed. Oh no, sorry. I did do it, but like we actually kicked it back. We pushed it back. So this should probably be So it's actually already past due, but so so that should answer it. But like no, we pushed it back to end of January because it was clear it wouldn't happen.
Okay.
Matthias, I thought the due date was for audit, not for fixing the issue.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think the due date of January is for the parent epic. There is this whole like having green builds and making sure the app works in as our testing and test suite is concerned. Basically no known issues is maybe another way to phrase that. We said that would be end of January. I don't know if there's another way we can communicate this more clearly.
So actually, Roy also raised this question to me. I think there's some like a dual action from my side. How about I will pin the EMs and maybe make some noise on the product channel to say, can all the teams plan to finish their gem updates in to have some planning for the next milestone, 15A in the 15A. I think 15A ends mid of January. Maybe there's some like a little buffer.
No, that sounds good, and I think if the actual audit is done, because it sounds like it is 100% reviewed, which is already way more than I ever hoped for. I think we should close that issue as done, like because this was only about understanding what's broken. It was never about the exit criterion for this specific issue that Roy took was never everything working. It was just like understanding what's broken and what is broken. So I think we should close it as done.
Nice.
Yeah, great job. Thank you.
Roy and Matthias, according to your experience, for each of the gem, what are the expected work? It's just like maybe upgrade to a newer version.
It really depends. Yeah, it really depends.
Okay.
I think
sometimes
the easy
is.
updates have been done by now, and what's left is probably stuff that has been pushed back because you don't fix it as easily. So these might require some more work.
Sometimes they're unmaintained. There are no new versions. So we just found another case in object storage. There's the Alipay cloud infrastructure, Alien, I think it's called. We have a gem there that looks like it doesn't see any releases anymore, and it's not Ruby 3 compatible. So we need to decide now. We did probably patch it ourselves, right? So yeah. I know that's being worked on, but that's an example for where you can't just update.
Yeah. Okay.
Next point, there's still a bunch that are unassigned. I think about 10, 15 gems maybe. I think we can work on them. Some of them don't necessarily have an owner as well. So
yeah, okay.
Should we happen? So.
Would it make sense to break out just a single issue for those last few, and then maybe we can split it up between us and kind of go for those?
Yeah, that sounds fine. We also discussed with last office hours that might be helpful to pair on these, because a lot of them are either all in GitLab, like all over the place, or are super old. They're basically not assigned to anybody because nobody wanted to pick them up. So they might be.
Yeah, I think let's pair. It's more fun to work on such games together, so we could share opinions synchronously and discuss what's the next action. So I'm ready to pair tomorrow after office hours, and
that's good.
Try to fix them up.
I can help as well, because I'm also kind of blocked on the other things.
Let's do it. And thanks a lot, Roy, for
gems left.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Roy, for consolidating this effort. It's amazing. And the next is from you, Nicola.
Yeah, this is the issue related to the load balancer. So as Matthias mentioned, it would be good if someone else picked it up. I can pair with whoever chooses to work on this. We have proposed solution. It just needs to be implemented. Maybe it would be useful for the team to just try it locally and maybe prepare a fix. Yeah. I can also do review, and we can probably ping Dylan for the maintainer review or something like that.
I think I actually...
But I'm not sure, but it has decent priority. I think it prioritizes as 2, and it's already dragging around for 2 or 3 milestones. So it would be good if we do it in this
I
work?
This week.
that's it's my bad. I already assigned myself. I had meant to work on this. I can help.
Oh, okay.
Mm,
That's also fine.
Cool.
If you are a volunteer.
cool. Thank you.
Also, do we think that the priority and the severity looks correct? P2S, P2S2.
Actually, P2 and S2 are not that crazy as they sound. If you read the description, like S2 means, S2 may be severe, but priority P2 means next few releases. So it's basically not that urgent as it sounds, in my opinion. Like,
I think the problem is we already missed like 5 releases.
Yeah, something like that.
okay.
So at this point, it's probably more like a P1. Yeah, I'll have a look at this week.
Okay. Thank you. That's it from the team topics. Anything else you want to share?
I just have one thing that I want to mention. I'll share my screen very quick.
Please do.
So for the gem audit, can I check our team's check marks here? Because like we are still volunteering on a lot of things, or I just leave it for now.
I mean, we don't own that many gems.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I think the ones that we do own, we have reviewed, as far as I'm aware.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I will.
So, you can set it.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. If that's everything, I will stop recording.